Hi there, I'm Jim.
Hi, I'm Stacy.
Let's talk teaching. Welcome to Let's Talk Teaching, a podcast from the Center for Teaching, Learning, and Technology here at Illinois State University. I'm Jim G. Joining me today is a special guest, Stacy Ramsey. She's the Associate Director for Enrollment Management here at ISU. Stacy, welcome.
Thank you, Jim.
So we've been talking about something in a committee. I know that probably doesn't sound real exciting to people listening, but it'll get better, trust me. Talking about technology training for new students, and we're taking another swing at this semester here on campus. But it's been something that we've been talking about for a long time on campus and trying to figure out different ways of doing, isn't it?
Right. We have made several attempts of doing technology training over time. Some of it way back when was mandatory. During Welcome Week, you had to sign up as a class to go and do technology training. Some of it's been optional in labs across campus. But this approach is a new online module approach that we're taking for the fall 2019. And we've been talking about this for several years since we went live with the new student information system about 5 years ago.
Cool. And of course, this spring, you gathered some of us together to talk about doing this. And we had a survey of faculty members and some academic advisors and whatnot. It was a very small survey, done very quickly because we were pressed for time. Do you remember what some of the things were that they talked about that are kind of pain points for students that faculty members are saying that students, they think they should know how to do something, but they're not able to do it?
Yeah. In particular, a little bit in general navigation with ReggieNet, how to maybe appropriately email a professor, communicate with a professor via email, and general Word documents. A lot of students coming from high schools now, especially are familiar with Google Docs, so they're not as familiar with the Office suite technologies as we might expect them to be. So in general, and some of the advisors also had some comments about, registration type items, navigating Campus Solutions, which is the part of the new student information system. So we try to incorporate all the feedback that we got to make a good overview, just brief tidbits about all things we could think of and all the feedback that we got so that students would at least get an introduction to each of the pieces.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting how just listening to all of the different pieces that you named, and I think one of the challenges to this is that from a student standpoint, they don't differentiate between the pieces as much. They don't know what Campus Solutions is versus ReggieNet versus something else. It's all kind of one digital experience for them, right? That seems to be like one of the challenges that we also have to overcome, is understanding that while they may appreciate user interfaces and stuff more, they're not really thinking about how the different pieces fit together.
Right. And in fact, in our survey and even through some of the feedback we got in the survey, everybody seems to feel that everything is ReggieNet. So everything is called ReggieNet. My's called ReggieNet. ReggieNet's called ReggieNet. Email is called ReggieNet. Everything is ReggieNet.
I don't know if we've ever actually talked about it on the podcast, come to think of it. There was a contest that was held when they were getting the new learning management system. For those, and we do have a lot of listeners who are not on campus, for those who are unfamiliar with ReggieNet as a term, it is the learning management system on campus. So it's the virtual classroom and learning space. And so they being some of my predecessors here at CTLT, I think, held a contest among students to name it. Well, obviously they did a good job because it's a pretty catchy name.
It is a catchy name.
And it's become kind of a generic term like Kleenex or Xerox for the generic term for the product or whatever. So, and ironically enough, or appropriately enough, I guess I should probably say, ReggieNet's going to be kind of the solution to help deliver this training, right?
Yes, it's actually going to be a course that we're going to deliver in ReggieNet to all new students. So new freshmen, new transfers, and new graduate students.
Mm-hmm. And this sounds pretty ambitious to me, honestly. And when I first kind of saw what they were looking to put together, and students don't have to sign up for this. This is something that will just appear for them in ReggieNet.
Yes, that's correct. So we will automatically assign them the course. They don't have to pay for the course. It is optional for them to take. It will be there as a resource for them beginning welcome week and throughout their first semester at Illinois State.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And it's very self-paced. So I think it will be interesting to see how they use it. There's a lesson on using ReggieNet, and then there's a lesson on, as you said, all of these other different things, getting their email and doing these different tasks. I will be interested to see how many of them kind of go through all of it, how many of them come back very frequently and kind of pick and choose and maybe use it as more of an a la carte sort of learning experience.
I think it'll go either way. I think people may go in and do specific items, and then there may be even some instructors who might want it to be part of their class instructions. So they may say, go out and complete the course. And at the end of the course, there is a certificate that students could print and provide to their professors to show they completed the course. So there's little quiz questions along the way. It's interactive. It can be taken in short little lessons, or it can be all one setting all the way to the completion. And
as we're recording this, the semester is getting ready to get underway. So we will link to, there'll be some online resources kind of advertising this, and we'll link to some information for professors to actually direct their students to this. And so maybe professors know a little bit more about what's in it as well. So that's pretty exciting. When we're talking about this sort of online training and these sort of technical resources, I mean, you're in enrollment management. So obviously, on this podcast, we talk a lot about the teaching side of things. But can you talk a little bit about the relationship between enrollment management, teaching, and the overall mission of the university? Because I think this is a good example of kind of how that connects together.
Sure. We bring in students who we have smart students who are coming in and ready and ambitious, and we want to make sure that we set them up for success. And I think them having to navigate all the technology on campus has been a struggle. And for retention purposes, as far as students persisting and being able to move forward to graduation, starting off strong and setting them up for, here is the things that you need to know to get started at Illinois State, instead of having them struggle with how to navigate things, I think is going to help with retention. I think they're going to come in, they're going to at least have a resource that they can go to understand the different systems, and then they will be given resources if they have questions or need additional assistance that they can go seek out. We are also having, as part of this, we're having some open labs the first week of classes, Monday through Thursday, in Milner Library, 3rd floor, and in the Julia N. Visor Center from 1 to 4. So students can actually get on-hands help too with learning and navigating the systems, and all of this will hopefully help in their transition to Illinois State as new students. Instructors use ReggieNet and the different systems very uniquely sometimes. So it's not meant to replace those things. It's just meant to kind of set them up for a good beginning so that they are not so nervous and anxious about how to navigate technology when they arrive on campus and get in the classroom.
Yeah, and concentrate on learning then.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. So they're not as worried about that. I think this will be something that faculty members will welcome. And I'm sure we'll get feedback from them as well as from students on what can be changed and improved and stuff like that. I think it's interesting how you pointed out, because we've often said, and this comes up in discussions I have all the time about how instructors use ReggieNet differently. We do an annual survey of students. We do one of faculty as well, but we do an annual survey of students who use ReggieNet. And I think the number one thing they say nowadays is, I just wish, A, you would make all professors use it. Well, that's not going to happen because professors need the freedom to use the tools they think, they should use. But also, B, you should make them use it the same way. And that's, again, not what, that's not going to happen either. Professors need that freedom as well. So I think what's interesting about this training is it is very basic foundationary level. It's just enough to get them into the space, whether we're talking about ReggieNet or we're talking about Office 365 or any of the other tools we have on campus, just enough to get them into the space so they can start to poke around and figure out what they need to do.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting, a good approach, because otherwise, so when we say it's a course, it's not the equivalent of a 3-credit-hour course on campus.
No.
No, it's just like a series of tutorials and stuff like that. So this is exciting. I know that you kind of mentioned there's going to be a lot of other outreach. You have this is an audio podcast. We can't show it, but you have a pamphlet that our colleagues over at Administrative Technologies put together. It's kind of shaped like a smartphone and unfolds and stuff like that.
Yeah, any way that instructors and faculty would be able to help us reach out to students to let them know that these resources now exist, that would be excellent, because we are doing quite a bit of marketing. We do have pamphlets that are going to be in residence hall rooms. They're going to be giving them out on a quad. They're going to be at a table during the Welcome Week picnic, with giveaways too, prizes and giveaways.
Oh yeah, prizes and giveaways. I might be there.
That's right. There is going to be quite a bit of outreach, but anything that instructors and faculty can do to help would be greatly appreciated.
Exactly, and so professors can feel comfortable that they can talk about this, and it's not in a vacuum, that students should be getting this message, especially new students to campus we're talking about, should be getting this message from several different directions, hopefully. So what's next with this project? Because this is just kind of the first step, right?
This is. So being that it's new, we will do an evaluation probably again with faculty, advisors, and students after our initial go live to see how they thought that the course went. In fact, there's an actual evaluation in the assignments section of the course itself. So students can take that after they're done with the course. But we'll be reaching out to get feedback, make improvements, and maybe even go, since this is such a broad-based, get your feet wet type of course, we talked about maybe being able to provide modules later that went more in depth on certain topics. So where we see students maybe struggling a little bit more, we can provide a more in-depth course that can get them a little more knowledgeable about certain things in certain areas that we feel like students are struggling with. So I want to thank our committee and Administrative Technology specifically for all their assistance with this project.
No, I think that's great. I'm glad you did that. In fact, we were talking today we had a meeting, right? We had a meeting this morning. In the interest of full disclosure, we had a meeting about an hour and a half ago before we recorded this, just kind of putting kind of the final plans in motion and whatnot. And I commented then that I had conversations with some of the committee members. It has been a really good example of how the different parties on campus that all care about student success how they can come together and actually try to achieve something.
Exactly. It's been great, and I've loved working with everybody. What a collaborative team. Go Redbirds.
All right. Thank you, Stacy.
Thank you.
And that's all the time we have for this episode of Let's Talk Teaching. Find out more about this initiative and about our Pokey Little podcast. Go to our website, ctlt.illinoisstate.edu. Look for the podcast link on the homepage. For Stacy Ramsey, for all of my colleagues here at the Center for Teaching, Learning, and Technology, until we talk again, happy teaching.